like to call to order the meeting of October 15, 2019. Would you all please stand for the invocation of pledging allegiance to our flag?
Lord, bless those who hold office in the government of our city. Help them to do their work in a spirit of wisdom, kindness, and justice, and to use their authority to serve our citizens faithfully. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Everyone have a nice
Here. Here.
James?
Here.
Here. Bob?
Here.
Noel?
Here.
Lakewood?
Here.
Willard?
Here.
Hudson?
Here. You'll receive the meeting minutes from October 1st. Any comments or questions on those? Hearing none, they'll stand as presented. You received the Planning Commission meeting minutes from October 8th. Any comments on that? We'll move right into having Rob Harris from Master Plan. Building is here to discuss the development opportunity for Lakefront Golf Course. Come on up. How are you?
Good. How's everybody doing this evening?
Good.
Thanks for having us. Again, Rob Stewart with Master Plan Builders and also APL Properties right now. We have principals of Master Planner here as well, Bob and Paul Stewart, and we're excited to present this project to you. What I'd like to do, if it's possible, is to go through a presentation and then jump back and do a question and answer time and try to, I think we're going to answer a lot of the questions during the presentation. And I'm going to hopefully systematically go through some of the hurdles that need to take place. So is that okay with all of you? Okay. So just to start, Master Plan Builders and myself, I live in the community, been in the community since 2004, I believe, 2005. We've developed Old Saybrook, and we've also recently have acquired the Back Bay Arrowhead, and we're in the process of finishing that up as well. So we have some history here, and we have deep roots in Columbiana when it comes to the infrastructure of our business and our marketing, and this property just fits right into our wheelhouse, and we're excited to talk about it. And if Lance will want to hit the lights, and all right, here we go. So. The Lakefront Golf Course, as you know, was a golf course and been around for some time. Adam's going to get it going for us right here. All right. So, most of you know where the Lakefront Golf Course is located, but let's start from square one. Lakefront Golf Course is just north of Route 14, between State Route 46 and 164. It's a 58 acre parcel with 3.5 acres in the right of way. So the property lines actually go to the center line of the street. So there's about 55 usable acres there that is being sold, of which you can see there is a lot of open space. So we're going to get into that later on, but just to give you an idea, about a third of the property is going to be dedicated to open space. About a sixth of the property I would consider being floodplain and unusable. But the sheer topography of the property, we came up with this site design, and we feel that the commercial area should be along the state routes, and that we should have residences within the heart of the community, taking advantage of the vistic views and the scenic outlook of from the patios of the homes, and it would be a waste to disregard that this is one of the prettiest parcels and prettiest pieces of land probably in our city. as Adam moves on to the next slide here, to accomplish this site plan, there's certain hurdles we need to get through. And one of them is a partnership with the city with a tax increment financing. And tax increment financing, or as a TIF, most of you are familiar with it, but just to take a step back and make sure everybody in the room understands, it's a public financing method that is used to subsidize development. And in this situation, the TIF would be utilized for the infrastructure of the land. There's an enormous amount of site work. The site work is extraordinary, number one. Number two is this parcel's inside the city, but yet doesn't have access to sanitary sewer. And I'm not entirely sure about water, but I think the majority of the parcel needs to be improved. And then sanitary sewer alone, though, is inaccessible. So what we're going to be getting into later on is showing you how the sanitary sewer is going to be, the location of it, and the collaboration between the city and private developers, myself, are going to install it, and how it's going to be paid for. But the TIF basically is the vehicle that we'd like to use to develop and also pay for the commercial infrastructure area of the lakefront. The second hurdle that we're going to have to talk about is the zoning. So there's really two parts here. There's the financing mechanisms and also the zoning hurdles. And currently the property is zoned C4. And that's going to put the slide there. So the entire parcel is zoned C4. And as you can see, Adam has the green area that we believe should still stay residential. The problem with C4 is that C4 encompasses C1 and C2 zoning. And in the C2 zoning, you're allowed to do multifamily. Well, that is residential. However, you're not allowed to use single or two-family dwellings in C4 properties. So we feel that the market is more open to single-family homes and also duplexes or two-family dwellings. So therefore, the zone would have to change in Columbiana zoning from C4 to R3. And we would like to go to R3 to give us the flexibility. So the next slide would show the R3 area. R3 area that we would be taking out of C4 is going to be, we'll have to go through planning commission, have it rezoned, and go through the necessary steps. R3 gives us the flexibility of having single-family dwellings, two-family dwellings, multifamily, and then conditionally permitted uses for humane care. So it's the perfect zoning, we believe, to complement the C4 zoning. And keep in mind, everybody comes in front of council wanting the C4 zoning. They don't want C1, they don't want C2, they want C4 because C4 encompasses. So it's the most sought after zoning. And, you know, in some lights, it's like we have it now, and why are we giving it up? So, but we feel that the sheer time period it would take to, you know, the absorption, the time period that it would take to develop this parcel strictly under commercial would be just, it would just be too long. And the recoup, you know, our game plan is not to have a project that's unfinished, you know, 15 or 20 years. We want to complete it, we want to finish it, and we feel that C4 is probably the wrong zoning for a lot of this property. And if any of you have an opportunity to walk it with me or to see it, you'll see exactly why. It's just the topography is too aggressive. So the next step we would look at is the time period. The time period of that R3 property, we would like to build it out in the next 60 months. And to be that aggressive and that confident that we can do that, we're going to need the help of the proven mechanism that you already have in place, the CRA. And right now, we don't need to ask for any approval for a CRA. If the property was developed, we would just continue applying for the CRA permits or application through the city. However, before we take the leap of faith in buying the property and also committing to the infrastructure and partnering with the city in a lot of aspects, I think it's fair to say that the current model of the CRA is a proven mechanism that just the sheer permits alone in 2019, I mean, it's proven that it has an effect. And we feel that it would be wise for us to obtain a commitment with the city and a partnership that it will be available to us for the next 60 months. Now, one may argue, well, the CRA leaves tax dollars off the table, leaves property tax dollars off the table. But the reality of it is the tax dollars that we're worried about go to the city and go to the school. And it's very easy to see from the permits of this year that are 3, 4, 5-fold on what they were last year, that income taxes are generated not only from the people living in these new homes, which is, that balances out right away, but it's also generated from the millions of dollars in employee and subcontractors that are working on these homes, that are getting taxed through RETA right now, and RETA is collecting those taxes under the income tax. And the construction workers like myself that are on the job site, that live in the city, and the surveyors and appraisers and everybody else are also paying their school tax. So if you look at the millions of dollars, I'm not going to throw the number out, but it definitely will balance out after a few $1 million of labor on this project in comparison to the loss, what we would have lost on our average permits being pulled in the city. So I think that alone, so the CRA is working, it's putting more money in the school, it's putting more money in the city, and I'd be willing to sit down and break it down for anybody that would like to go down that route, but I think it's a no-brainer. So that small commitment saying we're willing to commit to this project for Quadrant of Town for the CRA, it will allow us to not leave this project out there and unfinished in year 5, year 10, year 15. We don't want an unfinished street. We want to complete it, and we want to, just like we're completing the Back Bay over the next few years, we want to see finished projects. That's our goal. My dad's been in business since 1983 with my Uncle Paul. We've finished Covington Creek, the Laurels, we've condos around Ivy Hills. My uncle lives in the Heathers still. We all live in our communities, and they're all completed communities, and that's what we strive for, is to complete what we started. So Master Plan Builders has been around since '83, incorporated. We haven't changed our name. We're not going anywhere. So this mechanism, along with the TIF, is going to be the two vehicles that we want to jump on and ride with the city to complete Lakefront. Moving on to the next slide. The lift station. Why do we need a new lift station? Well, the aging lift stations on the north side of town, I'm sure have extraordinary maintenance costs to them, and there's multiple lift stations. This particular lift station would be a city project, and it would replace quite a bit of the infrastructure that is in town regarding the lift station. And I guess council knows what a lift station is, but just so a lift station, we got on the subject today, just in layman's terms, is the pumps that force wastewater to the processing plant. So there's lift stations located all throughout town that service the waste, sanitary waste. So this lift station would replace, I don't know exactly the number, I'm thinking it's probably at least 3 pumps that are on the north side of town. And it will also provide access to future taps all along 46 and north of 14. There's a lot of parcels that will be available now for development, because right now, even though you may be annexed in the city, we actually can't pull a permit without a sanitary sewer or water permit. So right now, I buy a lakefront, it does me no good. I can't build a house on it because I can't tap into sanitary sewer. So this lift station would fix all that. The lift station, though, parcel will be dedicated to the city, and that particular parcel may serve some additional needs to the walking trail and stuff we can talk about later, but we want to dedicate a parcel to the city. That parcel will be in the lowest lying area, and this is a collaboration basically of the cost. So we're going to share in the expenses that we would have incurred if we put a small lift station in and ran a force main to one of the current other lift stations, for instance, near 14. And the city is going to pick up the balance of that and increase that lift station, the capabilities, while we're doing it to streamline their process. And basically, we're providing infrastructure for our generation, but also for generations to come by investing in this lift station. Moving on to the last overview here. This map is unique because this map is spelling out the TIF area, spelling out the zoning, and it's also showing some of the conservation area. I'm just going to take a step back before we get into question and answers and go over a couple things. It all comes down to income. And a lot of the questions here are going to come up, why are we giving up this property tax? Well, right now you're not giving up anything. So right now Lakefront generates $15,000 a year in property tax. That's what it generates. We're not asking to take that away. Okay? What we're asking for is to improve the land. And the new land tax will be at least 10 times that. So the new land tax isn't subject to the TIF. The TIF is only part of the improvements. The CRA is only part of the improvements. So we're not only keeping the property tax at $15,000 a year, but it will be increased exponentially. And I'm throwing the number 10 times because in every projection I use, it's at least that. So in every model. So that's prong one, okay? And if we jump to the next prong, you're going to say, well, you know, right now Lakefront doesn't produce any income tax. The golf course is dead. So the income tax that we're producing only could go up. So right now we have zero in income tax for Lakefront. And what I'm proposing basically is that, you know, I've been asked by other members that have looked at this, and we were our own devil's advocate. The business segment of Lakefront, how do you quantify income tax for the business? A business could have a high labor cost. It also could have a high material cost, and most businesses aren't going to open their books up to us to examine what they pay their employees. So I can't give you an accurate projection on the business locations. However, I can say that the residences alone, the income tax is going to be well over 6 figures a year, and right now we get zero. So the income tax, and there's a school tax that's going to occur as well for those residences that live there of well over 6 figures a year for the additional 1%. So if we're looking at, you know, income of homeowners that are producing in excess of $10 million a year, 98% of the money that's left over, you know, after they pay tax and stuff, is going to be reinvested in the community and economic development. So where are they going to go to dinner? Where are they going to shop? Some of their disposable income is going to be spent inside the city, and income tax is going to be generated again. So it is a snowball effect of economics, and the exponential growth of the residences and the businesses, I can't necessarily quantify. All I know is right now you're getting zero, and in the future you're going to be getting, at the very least, the income from the residences that live there. Really the last major prong is there's going to be, at the end of the TIF, the end of the CRA, there's going to be a windfall of property taxes. So right now we're going to have income, and we're going to have the income tax, and we're going to have the land tax, but the improvement tax that is paying for the infrastructure, it is going to benefit our next generation greatly. And we're setting up the next generation for success, especially in this quadrant of town. The only thing I will touch on briefly is the income tax from building the homes and also the infrastructure. This multi-million-dollar project is taxed. So if you work in town, you're paying an income tax. So, and I'm sure that we're going to keep our eye, you know, we're going to be a close eye on this project. And so that alone is going to produce revenue while the project's going on. All in all, we're extremely excited. We feel that this is going to have to be a collaboration, and we're here today not for any formal consideration, but we're here with, you know, showing our conceptual ideas and trying to get some feedback, take the temperature of the room. I have till November 15th, basically. I'm under a due diligence period right now. We have the property secured, and just to put my cards on the table, I have till November 15th to withdraw my contract and receive a significant deposit back, or they keep the significant deposit, and we're going to march ahead with the proposal here. And so for us, this concept works. If it doesn't fit into the city's plan, I understand, but we've been at this for about 4 months now, and I think we've found a concept that we could stomach. I could sit back and guarantee it, and you know, but if it doesn't work out, that's fine too. I realize that we all have to work at this together, and we love your support, but I'd also love to hear your ideas. And obviously, you guys have a vision that I want to help fulfill for the town as well. So if we could do this together, I that's our wishes, but, I'm gonna open up for some questions and answers now, so.
Rob, if the city won't go TIF or the city won't go Cray, do you move ahead?
No.
That's
If
right.
they don't do either one, we won't move ahead.
No,
We need both.
That was a bogus question, I knew the answer. We're gonna see the same example over and over, I hope, as contractors go out to buy pieces of property, and they need a little help getting started. But again, the infrastructure that's gonna go in there, the money that's gonna be spent here, the people coming into the city, it's gonna benefit the city. And then, like you said, 15 years from now, or 10, whatever it happens to be, it's gonna be a windfall for everybody.
But
If this doesn't happen, or things like this don't happen, I'm not talking about this one, because I'm believing there's gonna be other ones out there. There's other pieces of property that are just, I can't believe, well, I'm sure they're being looked at. Without city support of some kind, they aren't gonna happen. Everything's gonna die on the vine. That project's been sitting there for a long time, vacant, ugly. We tried to get it purchased, drug market's gonna go in there. Some of the people in that area fought it because they wanted, an alcohol permit, like all the other drugstores had. And they fought it, we finally got it passed the third time it went on the ballot. But they were doing other things and they moved away, whether it was up in the background, I don't know, but we lost an opportunity there. I don't want to see it through those other opportunities for the city. And these are big. These are going to be very big for the city, because people are going to move in. And it's not going to be, these are going to be, from what I can see on this property, these are going to be some nice houses that are going to go in there.
I spent 2 hours the other day with Rob, literally going over the acreage with him, out there, seeing everything. And I can't say that I've ever been more impressed except for, maybe when Firestone came in. Very thought out. The way he has this laid out, he hasn't touched upon the fact that there's wetlands and that he has to deal with the way it's laid out because of the wetlands. We're talking about things like, I believe he said, thinking about doing an architectural review for the structures that are going out there. So it's not something that hasn't been thought out. It's sitting empty. It is a beautiful piece of property when you get into the inside of it, where the residential section will be. As we see it right now, it's an eyesore to our community, and we're not getting any real long-term benefit out of it in the concept that it's sitting in right now.
Yeah, just touch base on that. So yeah, we're going through necessary steps right now. From the appraisals of the commercial areas to make sure they work with our projections, to the wetlands delineation, data resources, when they're already tagged on the wetlands, what they see. So I have not delineated with the EPA and Army Corps yet. I'm holding up doing that until after my due diligence period. But we have mapped it, and I don't know if the lakes are going to go in down the center there, because I was out there again with Crystal, and you just what you see on a map does not equate to what you see when you're there. And I put the lakes on it, not walking the property, and when I got to a Davie, I was just blown away by the wetlands and yes, the water needs to be moving. There are things that need to be improved, but it is picturesque, right now. So, but we're taking the necessary steps. So Davie is in the middle of their delineation. Some of the other steps have Mr. Wenger here as well with me, representing me as far as regarding the TIF with the city. We're not after the details right now, but we are after hearing the temperature of what direction you feel that the property. Right now, C4, I can't make the business plan work. I can't do it. So that's why the zoning alone has to be looked at.
Whenever we brought that in, that it was discussed as like a PUD, that we could...
That was the original plan. That's what we thought would happen, but since it was on 2 state routes, I think they did C4, like Rob said, that C4 is the most sought after. So
the planning commission, whenever we did that, that was our original, I think that the pitched to the planning commission was that there would be commercial around the front and residential on the interior. I can't imagine that the planning commission would have any issues with that.
Well, and the same with council, I can't imagine council having issues with changing the zoning as well. Your plan is not, it's probably a little more commercially oriented than what this kind of drug plan was, which is very, very similar. They had proposed residential in the interior part. I don't think they had the commercial along 46.
Yeah, that was the very last parcel.
I don't have a problem with that. Now, one question I had though was, in their plan, they had the pump station going in there in a similar location. I don't know exactly where it was at. But then the lines would be run down 14 and then across Manor Court or in that general area to the...
So it would run right up 46, across 14 and hook into our current lift station there at what we call the north end lift station at the car wash. Okay. We would actually connect it right there and use the exact same force main.
So the same thing is going now.
Yep.
Okay. But I was just trying to find out how similar this was to the other one that was proposed. I thought both of them were good ideas.
Yeah, it's the same lift station.
Yeah.
We just updated the cost.
The same engineering that we did previously.
Yep.
And was it a tip or something different that we did in Firestone Farms for all of the improvements to the sewer and water?
That was an assessment, something totally different.
Yeah.
Where I believe that the city was on the hook at the end if it didn't come to fruition, where this would be, master plan would be on the hook. So that's why, conceptually, we're working with Mr. Wenger and with Mr. Hudson to see how this could work. But what the numbers are, we're not exactly sure right now. But we do know that you don't want to set anybody up for failure, the city or master plan. So we want to make sure it works.
Yeah, there's actually, just to touch base, we're not going to get into the details, but anything we do will have safeguards to protect the city. And we feel that that's what, referencing to, we need the vehicles to get in to run with this. And, I think it benefits everybody as a whole, especially the demographic of buyers we're going for our homes. But yeah, there will be safeguards in place to protect the city, and master plan ultimately is the developer, and we're partnering, collaborating with the city here for this project.
Well, I will say, when I opened my packet, and the first thing I did, I don't read, I look at drawings. And I flipped through, I said, oh man, this is a great plan.
Yeah.
I like the way it was laid out. It fits that piece of property perfectly.
Thank you.
One concern I have is you were asking for long-term commitments on the CRA. At the tip, I don't think is a problem because that's going to move very fast to get everything in place. I think this council would support that idea, that long-term commitment, but it's very likely that this council's not going to be here in 5 years or 10 years in the same makeup that it is now. And so a future council may not have the same opinion. Also, there's also the possibility that the state changes the law, so it may go away and we may not have anything to do with it. But I would like to say personally that, and I'm sure other council people would too, that I'd fully support it for as long as needed, because it makes sense.
Yeah, our thought process here is that by having the residences and commercial and interacting together, Crystal touched on, which I didn't know how in depth I wanted to go on this, but yeah, there will be an architectural review body, and right now, if we're the owners of the entire parcel, I know in the past we've asked the city to step in and have an architectural review committee, but we would be doing that as essentially like an HOA. So it'd be part of our deed restrictions. You cannot cinder blocks, on the commercial spaces. So we're going to treat this where, aesthetically, we want something looking nice across from our homes. So, we didn't really get into that, but being that we're the developer, we sort of control that, which is ultimately, if we're on the hook, we want to be able to have that control, and we want to not have somebody put in a structure that is going to be a detriment to the rest of the project.
I think your investors buying those lots would appreciate that as well.
I would think so too. And I think we appreciate hearing that that's your plan, because that says you're gonna build something that's good for the city,
Long term.
long term, yeah.
Rob, what about, with this marriage, streets and curbs, where are you at with that?
For the design or?
Development, payment?
Well, again, the TIF allows us to, whatever the property taxes generate, we're allowed to utilize for infrastructure costs, whether it be storm sewer, curbs, blacktop, sanitary water, light, lampposts, whatever we have for the commercial spaces. For the residential portion of it, that'll be paid for by master plan. So, it's you know, whether it's rolled curbs or 6-inch curbs, and we haven't got that far, but likely to be a rolled curb, and it would be, you know, Class A road. The excavation cost is extraordinary. We take the top of the hillside off, you know, bring the lots up. Almost all of the residences are going to have walkout basements. I'd be shocked if they didn't. So we're talking about nice homes, nice residences. Chances are, and Crystal's on, you know, Crystal was on the site on top of the hillside. The driveways themselves will probably have reverse grade. So the driveways, there's such an incline there that the driveways will actually go downhill, and most of them will be side entrance garages, because you just can't put a front entrance garage, you know, going downhill, pushing water into the garage door. So we're going to follow the contours of the land. We're going to create the views that are going to keep residents there long term, and I guarantee you, if you live on this property, you're not going to be looking for other homes. So they're going to be long-term residences. They're not going to want to move. They're not going to leave the city limits, and they're probably going to, well, our generation, the generation that's coming up, we want to walk everywhere. So we want to be able to walk to the grocery store, walk to the bank, and I think that, you know, providing walking trails, and also this is in the heart of the center of that quadrant of town. You know, when you walk and have a drink at Factory 46 and you're able to walk home, that's, you know, that is going to be a huge benefit for our residents. So,
I'd just like to quickly comment that it is very beautiful. I agree with Crystal. It's really a beautiful layout. My wife, who lives in town, never said, "Is there really water running down there?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I got a whole bunch of golf balls." I know there's water on that site. So it is very beautiful.
Maybe do an excavation that return to you.
Yeah, maybe can I get my balls out?
no, because I have to do it the Army Corps then. So your balls have stuff on them right now that we have to leave. There's moss going on.
And the length of the TIF and the CRA that you're requesting is how long?
The TIF is approximately 20 years, and we'll just touch quickly on that. Why is it 20 years? Because, and why are we asking for a CRA? The alternative, and when I get into crazy legal stuff, would be an incentive district, and we want to stay away from that, and also multiple TIFs. And I don't want to be asking for, you know, 4 TIFs here. We want one TIF, and we want it to work, and, you know, we're not going to put in one building, and, you know, that one building is going to be the start of the TIF. The clock ticks. You know, year one starts when the first building goes in. So we immediately need to be working on, it's going to take us 6 to 7 years to finish the commercial space out and to find tenants. So the reality of it is it's not truly a 20-year TIF for all of the commercial. It's going to be, you know, we're asking for a 20-year TIF, and some of the commercial may only be in that TIF for 11, 12, 13, 14 years. But we're not going to buy the property and have, you know, a TIF just be in one little quadrant, and then, you know, come back later and say, if we have another TIF, we have another TIF. We want it just to be one blanket TIF, so we're asking for 20. And the CRA, without going to an incentive district, the CRA gives us that mechanism, that vehicle to run with for residential. And the current TIF outside of incentive district, you can't have residential in it.
So then how long are you expecting the CRA are you going to apply for?
For 15 years. It'll be a 15-year CRA, which we currently have available. However, what we're after is a guarantee that it's going to be around. So after the development, we have an opportunity to fulfill building 20 homes a year, 10, 15 homes a year to get that to get the project completed. If the CRA goes away, there may be a little bit of a law if it's not done in an orderly fashion, so we want to make sure that we have the vehicle in place.
Mark, can we, vote on something and say this particular piece of land can have a CRA, even if it goes away the rest of the city?
We're looking at, let me make it this way, we're looking at the idea of a agreement, but there would have to be some stakeholders in that besides the city, so this would probably be one of the stakeholders. So if everybody's in agreement with it at the outset, the hope is nobody changes their mind, because as you get closer to the end of it, that's where I think everybody would start to see the real benefit. That's where the dollars are gonna start to come in, or, gee, this land's better than it was when it was a vacant golf course that just looks horrible. So, yeah, but we're kind of wanting to take this one step at a time. We're looking at the CRA, and I think Rob has looked at the CRA works well for residential, but as he says, TIF doesn't work so well for residential. There's a lot of restrictions that we get into, and it gets much more complicated. So using it for commercial seems to work well.
I think I'd like to make a motion that we accept this concept project that's been presented, with the understanding that there's still a lot of details to work out that have to follow the normal course of the way we're required to do things. And that'll include, approval by planning commission, on and on and on. So, but I think I want to express our, interest in supporting the concept, assuming all those other things work out.
I'll second that.
I have just got a question, Rob. What is the preliminary concepts for commercial mix? Do you have an idea what type of businesses you'd be seeking, or what you thought would go in there?
Ideally, we're after creating jobs, and without divulging sort of who's on the table. There's really everything. There's a little bit of shopping. I mean, there's possibly some retail, but I think it's also important, and we didn't on the map itself. Why I'm leaving this section right here available and keeping it R3, because it gives us the opportunity to have humane care, which it might include a nursing home, assisted living, and still have it under the R3 zoning. But I do think that we've had everything from nursing homes to medical, but creating jobs, number one. Number two is the architectural aspect is pretty important to us, because we just think that long-term wise, it needs to be an asset. Some of the businesses, and this is a whole other conversation, but I believe that we need to focus on the youth and create some type of incubators and stuff like that as well. So I don't know exactly what that all entails, but I'm definitely open for creating some type of environment where youth could be brought in and they have an opportunity to create their own business. Because right now in the city, I don't know if that exists to the level that it could.
Thank you.
Man, Rob?
Yes.
I mean, obviously we know each other through Homestead. I've lived in Columbiana from 1995 to 2008. When I graduated high school, I went to Case Western, lived in Cleveland from 2008 to 2018. Really saw Cleveland become cool again. I really saw what our income taxes could do for our city. And I saw when I was finally a salaried employee, and I was like, holy crackers, that's 18% of my money. What does this go to? And I started going to City Hall, and I started looking at my perks and my benefits as a citizen of Cleveland that a lot of students and a lot of upper class people didn't even know they had access to. You pay for a gym in Cleveland, you just don't know what you already paid for, because the community centers across the entire city are incredible. They're like the McClurg YMCA, but free with your ID, because you're that socialism thing sometimes works. So 18% is pretty decent. I don't even know what income tax is here because I am a bartender, so you guys don't even know how much money I make. You don't know how much money anybody at Homestead makes, because we only have to tell you 8% of our sales, and at Homestead we usually make 25%.
Okay, we're good.
I'm just saying, if you want to consider the youth population for this development, I would definitely consider preserving some of the natural beauty, the wildlife that you're talking about, areas like where Mr. Hudson lives,
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I just exactly one thing about the walking trails and stuff. That's an area that possibly, we could tie into the city sidewalks, provide jogging, biking, dog walking, and then even the pump stations. The city's open to putting some parking areas in there. It's an opportunity to park there, take a dog for a walk, et cetera. So we're open to all of that. But that takes collaboration, and it takes, an area, of, hypothetically, those park spaces need to be plowed, people need to be able to walk there, and they take their dog for a walk through the wetland path. So we're open to all of that, and that is hopefully the next step here in the design process and figuring out where our costs are going in. But that's going to benefit us, it's going to benefit the residences, it's going to benefit town as a whole. So right now, I think the more we connect, to be honest with you, Mahoney County to Columbiana, I think the dollars will be spent in Columbiana.
Well, there's a lot at stake here. You've done a very admirable presentation. But every budget that the school puts out has to be there for a 5-year period. Okay, they can't project any farther. And they're responsible for being able to make a payment. Do you think you might be able to consider a little bit less time on the TIF for the CRA? Can you go back and look at that?
I don't think it's feasible, and that's one of the things why I wanted to take a temperature now to see before we got to the end of our due diligence. I do not think it's feasible, especially, and I invite you, Mr. Becker, to actually walk the property with me. And when you stand up there and go, holy crap, we need to excavate this.
I've been on it.
Yeah, it's just it's a lot of earth.
And I agree, it's an eyesore. It has been.
No, well, not an eyesore, but the earth itself. Preliminary numbers. You're not getting on details, but we're talking huge.
But from a school budget standpoint, Mr. Brooks here, the school's not receiving any income tax on that property right now, right? And from a 5-year budget standpoint, I would assume you haven't budgeted that there's going to be something on that property. And if you had, it would have been a crapshoot as to what you would have been putting on it. So I would assume that budget is for the $15,000 that you're spoke of, right?
Correct.
So, if you're basing your budgets off of what's already there.
That's what I'm saying. The problems basically are the land value.
What I'm trying to do is do a little work here for the schooling system, because they have to agree to allow this to function. Okay.
And we didn't want to shoot for the moon and come back and try to negotiate down. We felt that, and again, it's a concept, we're open to talking about this, but the numbers don't work without changing the site plan. And so
I appreciate you being honest.
So this concept works the way we molded it. If we have to cut the roadways off and not utilize the whole property, and you're not going to have the income tax of the homes and stuff like that, but we have a lot of work to do to come back to you and say, Masterland's willing to sign on the dotted line right now, and the city's willing to sign on the dotted line right now, and everybody feels warm and fuzzy that we're going to do this. But if we had to pull back the numbers, it would basically mean less infrastructure, and ultimately, it's, or multiple TIFs. So if you wanted to go down to 15 years, we need to go to an incentive district, and we need to have, maybe 4 different TIFs. And every time an area is developed, it goes to the 15-year TIF or the 10-year TIF. But we're trying to eliminate the complexity of the incentive district, and I don't know. It's just it gets very cumbersome, I think, with the paperwork, and it's going to bog us down.
I think Mr. McVeigh's motion is a conceptual motion.
Yeah.
That's what I'm taking it as. And so, I think some of these other discussions can, be held, as you say, as we get further research.
Yeah, all the motion is saying is that council is happy to see what you're doing, like you to move forward and see where this is going, and that's what
But he's got to make some pretty serious decisions.
I have a monster amount of money on mine right now, and if I let that go, it becomes, and I don't want a property, right now it's useless. I have no sanitary sewer, I have no water, if I'm not gonna have it, I don't want it.
It's
And
not
that's where-
tempting to see where it's going.
Well, I didn't mean it to be that easy,
But it is, it's a temperature. We want your temperature.
Exactly.
But I don't want you to say yes and vote yes if, to be honest with you, if ultimately we're gonna come back and say we're gonna give you a 10-year tip because it just doesn't work. You know, so I just being frank is that as politely as I could say this, it works the way it is, but if we start messing with numbers a little bit, I'm gonna get scared. And
my intent was really to say, the numbers and things that you presented to me sound like they make sense. And I want to see us commit to that, but knowing that the tip still needs to be negotiated and we're going to have to vote on that again. The CRA, that process is going to have to be followed. The zoning change is going to have to be approved by planning commission to be sent to council for final approval. And I think that we're saying that we will try to do that.
And Mr. McBain, I'm also, I asked Mr. Mook to appear in front of the school board next week. So now I asked him to be here as well because I don't want to do anything behind anybody's back, and I want to get their temperature as well. And feel, you know, where are we at, everybody here? Do you guys like the idea? Do you not like the idea? Because, you know, business is going good the way it is, and I could just keep going down that road, and I'm going to be happy. But I think it'd get a little bit better if we work together. So, you know, so that I'm okay with. I like my kids are doing well. They're doing well in school. Business is doing good. Life's good. But you know, I'm always striving for the next step. So, but that's, you know, I'm still going to go back to the school and make sure that, you know, they're getting full warm and fuzzy, and, you know, we're all, you know, going to work together.
Well,
So.
I think that's really what Dick's motion says. Is that what the motion says? Is we like what we see. We'll work with that best we can.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So,
Any other comments? So roll call.
sure, I want to be straight up with you. Okay, I still work for the school. So if I don't feel in good conscience, I would vote no or yes at this time, but I'm going to abstain. I hope you appreciate
Thank you.
that.
Appreciate that.
Robert?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
Boggs?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you for all your time tonight. Appreciate it.
I remember what year did that get annexed in? Was that 2000?
It was quite a while ago.
Around 2000, I think. Well, I wasn't involved.
I was on council. I think it was 2011.
I think that was so, something like that.
2010, 2011, I think you're right on the line.
So it's been sitting there for eight years.
There have been at least 2 different proposals, but the problem has been with the concept to include everything, I suppose, and complete piece of property.
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for taking the initiative. I think that you'll be rewarded for it. I think with Columbiana, with being the nicest city in America, we already have attractions to tax abatements. Lance and I just talked to a Cleveland Plain dealer yesterday for about 3 hours, and I think half of his conversation was about tax abatements in Columbiana. Those things are being noticed all over the place, and I think that it will, whatever help is necessary, that will juice it. I think it will blow up. I think you'll be rewarded for your effort. Update?
Okay, manager's report. I am going against my golden rule. Never do technology on the fly. I'm going to try this here. So, we've been talking the last couple of months about the Progress Committee, working with the schools, and kind of just bringing us together. And as we all know, that we were named nicest place in America last Thursday. We talked to some people. It was a really exciting night for everybody. you've got to see ad nauseum probably all the footage, but you haven't seen this. And what's really neat about it for me is that I can call the superintendent of both schools at 7:20 in the morning, and Dr. Book says, "I gotcha. Go ahead." Okay, this is where it gets a little dicey here, but you can't miss this. No, it's gonna work.
Boys and girls, how does it feel to go to school in the nicest city in America?
The high school kids reacted too, it's not quite like that.
And middle school did really well at the assembly.
That made my day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the first thing on my manager report. We need to, again, do a huge thank you to Mary Lou Wilson, the authors, Deb Salmon, Eric Offenberg, and the special needs actors for making all that possible. It was really a whirlwind. It's not over. You know, we're gonna keep moving on that, but I mean, what's really neat about it is the nicest place in the nation. It's huge, huge.
And reading the article, it's more than just about theater. They included all kinds of things around town that they considered part of that niceness of the community. So it was really interesting to read through it.
Yeah, so how it worked really was, you know, the first aspect in June, around the 21st, we were notified that we were the nicest place in Ohio. And the way that was determined was by Mary Lou's article. And then they said, well, let's move forward and we're gonna vote. So that's the quantitative aspect of it. And then we won that. You know, on July 4th, we were like third place by 4 o'clock. We had a tent set up. By 8 o'clock, we were in second place, and by 10 p.m., 10:15 exactly, we came in first place, and we never relinquished that. So that was pretty cool. But then came the qualitative analysis, where they embedded themselves into our community and did just what Vic said, and met with a bunch of people. We had probably 30 interviews over those 3 days, and they've been in our community since then, weeks on end, and it's been a great opportunity. We did want to thank Braden Tucker for the Diamond Breed Diesels. Found out through the chamber that he has over 100,000 Facebook followers, which I mentioned. Town Center has over 20,000, and Birdfish, I believe there are about 8. So every time we begged them to push it out, they did. So it was well over 100,000. And then several news outlets have contacted us: WFMJ, WKBN, Morning Journal, Business Journal, Plain Dealer. And just so you know, it will be available on the website soon. There is an extended version of that article that was in the hard Reader's Digest. We'll say it was a page and a half. I would say the extended version is probably more like five pages. It's extensive. So if you have any questions, you can give us a call. But I don't think. Well, we're gonna. Can I announce this, Rick? Well, I think it's important to get everybody there. So the Columbiana Chamber, Columbiana Area Chamber, has a Christmas parade, committee. And they name, somebody every year, the last couple of years. Yeah, the Grand Marshal of the parade. And they reached out to Deb Salmon and Crown Theater on Thursday to notify that they're gonna honor them. So we're gonna celebrate as a community on November 22nd at 6 p.m. And I think I did call Deb today to make sure I was allowed to say that, but you know, we already have thousands of people down there already, and we're gonna be able to get more. I think there's 4,000 people there on a regular night. I'd like to get 10,000 there this time. So we're going to be working on that, and maybe even have the high school make us some T-shirts, but I better get over there pretty quick. Huh?
Yeah, so we can have those kids on the float up front of the parade. I think it'd be fantastic, and I think it's a great thing. It'll be a beautiful night.
Okay, so moving on, the RCAP committee did visit Columbiana Crestview Schools. It was a really good trip. We learned a lot. We think it'll help build community. Again, we're talking about that entrepreneurial aspect, and actually what Rob's talking about, we're going to try to do that on Main Street very soon. Hopefully, I don't know, 4 to 6 months, we'll have something that the kids can access. Let them work with their hands either during school or after school. I will say that I was personally impressed by to see what the high school already has as far as makerspace. It was pretty nice equipment. Let's see. A lot of these things that happen in downtown was a result of RCAP and the Deb Brown process. RCAP sent me to Seattle to learn a lot about Main Street, and I'm going to be going to another conference. It's City Managers Conference, and it's actually going to have some more of the same stuff. So hopefully we get some more stuff we can implement in 2020. We did adjust the speakers on South Main Street since last time. It was getting too loud in a couple spots, but I think we got it fixed. I saw in the paper where Salem has been looking at Dora. They've reached out to us, and we've been able to kind of guide them. We did have from 5:30 to 6:30, we had a speaker in here from basically Columbus area, and we were talking about communications and Facebook and stuff. What I found was neat, interesting, is he's actually the city of Hilliard's magistrate, and they are the people that helped us on the door. So if you remember that correctly, it's pretty neat. Small world. The Housing Council met on October 11th, which was Friday. They did vote to place Eric Banner and Robert Schwartz to the committee, and that committee is completely full now. They also voted to, I'm going to see if I can wordsmith this properly. They voted to give council their support to move forward with the CRA as written in 2019. They reviewed some things, and in concept, they agreed to or voted to have me tell you that. Nothing really formal, just
To extend it to 2020?
Yeah, 2020. Yeah, extended to under 2019 terms. Excuse me.
Yeah, no changes.
No changes.
For an additional year.
Yes, that's what they were. Sorry about that. Okay, we all clear? We have, I think, about 2 more weeks for civil service letters. We did get one in so far, and so we'll look at that. I believe it's the next council meeting. Leaf bags, I wanted to thank Ace Hardware They handed them out on the 12th. I did not check to see how they did, but if they're out of bags, we'll have some up here at City Hall. Street Department? Oh, go ahead. Street Department, we paved last week and this week, and we're finishing up, I believe it's today. We had to raise some manholes where necessary. Water, we did some big locates, and we're doing hydrant flushing. Wastewater, we had same big locates, we did press. We did have investigated an odor complaint. We hadn't had one there in a while. We're looking into it a little bit closer, but it may be a seasonal phenomenon, but the sewer lids are sealed. And there are some residential solutions that we can look into that basically puts like a fancy muffler on people's individual homes. But we'll see how that goes next couple weeks. Park and Cemetery, mowing's caught up. Joy Christmas is in full force. I guess Terry dodged out of here after the first meeting, but they've been working hard on that, and they continue to work with Terra Designs. If you've been to Mirror Lake lately, we've got the aerator moving again. That motor had went out. We've got the last part of the fiber in. So I believe we did over 3 miles of fiber. And the electric department had the honor of installing our new banner on Friday, and we're really excited about that. We do want to thank Brian Patrick for donating that. We really appreciate it. Brian pointed out that they actually brought one out on the field during the game, before the game, another banner that says nicest place in America, so that was pretty cool. That's all I have, Brian.
You all received the bill list for October 15th. Any comments or questions on it? Now we'll move into old business. Due to the length of the ordinances, can I have a motion to read them by title only?
Second.
Roll call.
Stover,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
Gibson,
Yes.
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Resolution number 19-R-547, second reading. A resolution authorizing the city manager of the city of Columbiana, hereinafter referred as the local public agency, to execute a contract with ODOT for the bridge replacement carrying State Route 7 over Norfolk Southern Railroad, PID 99646, in the city of Columbiana.
So moved.
Any comments? Roll call.
McBain,
Yes.
Gibson,
Yes.
Bug,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Stover,
Yes.
Ordinance number 19-0-3018, second reading. An ordinance authorizing the city manager of the city of Columbiana to execute an efficiency smart schedule with American Municipal Power Incorporated.
So moved. Second.
Comments? Roll call.
Gibson,
Yes.
Bug,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Stover,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
No new business. Is there anyone from the public desiring to address council this evening? Come up, state your name, address for the record.
Oh, this is uncomfortable, standing with people in my back. All right, I'll do it anyway. Okay. Adrian Waldron legally, Adrian Waldron Basella, by name and reputation, I guess. Address 18.5 East Salem Street, but I'm more concerned about 350 Quincy Avenue, which is my parents' home. I grew up at 215 North Main Street, which was a farmhouse my parents tried to renovate for years and fought until we allowed it to fall into foreclosure because there was no fixing that old farmhouse basement. So graduating from college in 2012 with the world at my feet, I was also dealing with losing my family home and my family crumbling. So I am just addressing council. I know I probably just kind of sound like a crazy liberal, but please think of me as a product of Columbiana High School. I think of me as the student of Kathy, Rob Carney, Dan Vargo, and Judy Green, because those are the people that made me go to Case Western, study neuroscience and evolutionary biology. So I'm very purple heart of America. That's why everybody cares about what we think in Ohio. And I am primarily concerned with water, schools, roads, police, and us being a farming community. So it really breaks my heart to hear, what I think Rob is doing sounds amazing, but to hear somebody say that area is an eyesore. It's beautiful as a golf course. My parents could never afford to take us to putt-putt there, but we always wanted to. And I loved Arrowhead. I love seeing the development. I'd love to see Arrowhead be swimmable again. What Rob's doing, I would gladly live there if it was swimmable and walkable and something of a nature preserve. So my concern today about 350 Quincy Avenue is mainly addressing sewage issues, with which I've already spoken to Brian Dickens. He came to my house and spoke to those of us living on East Salem Street and Firestone. I live above Margaret Terry Ham. She's a really excellent landlord, dealt with a lot of not so great ones. Next door to me is my younger brother, Connor Vasella, who operates fantastic games. Above him is Mackie McGarry. So we fancied ourselves the East Street gang because the boss died major and had to move back to Columbiana. So, since losing my brother, I've just been kind of taking things in, getting the feel of this town again, and the sewage is a problem because I've come home. It's not a seasonal issue. I talked to Mr. Dicken about this. Anytime that I come home from Cleveland, regardless of season, it's something when the wind patterns change. It is something coming off either the water tower being next to that marshland. I don't know. I took aquatic ecology. I took some classes, took all of Mr. Vargo's classes. So I don't know what's going on, but I would suggest to council perhaps that we ask Dan Vargo, while we still have his brain and his left side working, to maybe ask him about sewage. That was my recommendation to Brian Dicken. And also Marty Butchery, she's one of my neighbors. She has one of those beautiful gardens. East Salem Street has some of the best gardens I've seen anywhere, including Millionaire's Row in Cleveland and the Rockefeller Gardens. We have beautiful gardens in our citizens already. So it's awesome that we're doing things for new citizens, but I'm concerned about the citizens who've lived here, I moved here in 1995, and I've never quite fit in because my family's Russian and Scottish, and that's not really what this town is. So we've always kind of not clicked. When I left Cleveland, I come back, and I feel like I do click a little better. I just have some ideas, and I've been talking to Nicole Ice and Tom Makel. I've been working for the Boland family, and I want to help make Columbiana as cool as Cleveland became. And part of that has to do with wanting artists and 20-somethings, and yes, we have 30-somethings. We have a great school system, but 20-somethings, artists and young women, and having an artist coalition. You get girls start buying condos. Their boyfriends move in, then they buy a house in Columbiana.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir. Sewage?
Yeah.
Sewage, it stinks. It stinks. I'm bummed out. I live in a town that stinks worse than Cleveland, and that was a town on fire.
Okay, I normally give people a couple minutes. So, if you have something to address council with having to do with sewage, which is what you requested to speak about, I would suggest you get to it.
Please ask Dan Vargo or Marty Butchery to work with Brian Dicken on improving the sewage, because the air quality and the water quality of our town is disturbing to me when the Mirror Lake was just rebuilt, and yet our natural waterways, Beaver Creek, the tributaries Dan Vargo showed me as a kid, are not being properly taken care of. So that is my part as a concerned citizen. 350 Quincy smells like poop when the wind changes. I dare you to drive up the street with your windows down on your way home. Or when I'm coming home from Homestead with a friend or two, it's really embarrassing that they live in Struthers, boo, and they come up to the second floor and they're like, why does your house smell like crap? Or my little brother has his girlfriend or his fiance come home from work and sick to her stomach because in her own living room it smells like poop.
I think that the city, you talk to the police chief, you talked to our city manager, you
I
talked
sure
to
have.
Mr. Brian,
Yep,
and they all told you that they're looking into it, right?
yep.
Okay.
So I will be organizing other concerned citizens that care about the roads and the parks and the farming community.
I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, oh, I've already got one.
Have a seat, thank you.
Done, thanks.
Anyone else?
I have one thing, sir.
Make it short. Just one thing.
Just one. You may notice, in November, every November, it's kind of a nationwide thing, police go into a mode where they call, No Shave November. And our guys have approached me, and they want to do this year. They've done it in the past for, things like prostate cancer awareness. This year, they approached me with the idea, they want to have a No Shave November, and they want to each contribute $25 for the right to participate in that, and they want to earmark that money to go toward our city's canine program. I think that's an admirable thing. Being old school, I myself will not be growing anything in my face. However, I will pay the money for the privilege, but I understand what they're trying to do. They want to have some fun with it. They put out a kind of a neat little flyer here. I'll pass it to you. And if you see them looking a little scruffy in November, that's my fault. I told them it was a good idea. We could go with it. They're just trying to have some fun, raise some money for canine. Sir.
Chief, what about our ladies? Are they gonna?
They're welcome to grow a beard if they desire. I don't have an answer for that. Let's talk to the guys who got their idea. I'd pay to see it myself. I'll pass this around. I don't have an answer. If you have an idea, please let me know, because we'd like to challenge them too.
Then I'd probably put a whooping on them.
Now, well, I don't want to cross her up.
8:11, and Brian lost the meeting.
That's all I have. Thank you for the time.
I'm still in shock, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, one other thing. Today is Sudie's birthday, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Sudie's birthday. I'll be posting a picture tomorrow of, Sudie enjoying a birthday dog treat. With a party hat, no less.
Any other comments?
I just thought last Saturday, Safety Day presentation that was put on out at the new fire station was just top shelf. They do some demonstrations out there, and one of the other comments that I heard while walking through the crowd was, boy, am I glad we got one on this side of the tracks. So, kudos, folks, we got it.
I hate our intersection of Elm Street and Park Avenue. I can never get through it. Like, there are times there's like 12 cars backed up and I'm sitting there for 5, 7 minutes. I timed myself the other day. And it's not always during when school lets out or the lunch rush or the dinner rush. And it happens also at Vine and Park down there. Those two intersections, they're a mess. And especially as we keep developing downtown, we see down low for Birdfish has a lot of traffic down there. I really, really think that we need to address those two intersections, do a traffic study. I asked for it 4 years ago and I was told it wasn't busy enough. Well, 4 years later, and I waited 7 minutes to get across the street, and then you could see kids on their bikes, people trying to walk, and they can't cross the streets either because there's just too much traffic coming through. Growth is a good thing, but I think we need to address those two particular intersections and see if there's anything that we can do.
We could put in traffic circles.
Four-way stop would be nice, I think.
You gotta learn your way around town. You come out the alley above Elm Street, you make your turn, or you go down French Street.
There's a lot of people catching on to using the alleyways, and you're not just, you're sitting 2 and 3 cars deep in the alleyways too now, so.